Yeah, my name is Alex Chartrand. I represent the 4 First Nations on the Central Coast, Kinisokheches, Nuchalkum, Piltuk, and the Wikino. And I represent the 4 nations on the PNCIMA Steering Committee, Pacific North Coast Integrated Management area. I sit there and I speak on behalf of the hereditary chief. I speak on behalf of the people of the Hiltuk. And one of the things I want to do right now is that recognize that we are in a territory of the Hiltuk. We are in the territories of the Hiltuk. People do not understand those things yet because they do not understand that the Hiltuk have not signed an agreement or signed a treaty or ceded any of these lands to the federal or the provincial government. So it's important to recognize that and to understand that this has not been sold or given away to anybody. So with that, I welcome everybody here and looking forward to hearing your thoughts and comments in terms of how we can be able to, as Gary said, how we can be able to work together, because there can be some really substantive changes in how we manage this area. With that, we're looking forward to hopefully the next 2 or 3 years, something will be substantially happen in terms of protecting and looking after and enhancing the fishery products in our territory. It's one of the most important things for our people. Food, social, ceremonial, food fish for our people on the Central Coast. With that, in our language, Kayana Kutsi.
Okay, thank you to both Alex and Gary for your introductions. My name is Neil Davis. I work for Fisheries Notions Canada, and my position within the department is the PNCIMA coordinator. So the initiative that we're going to speak to you about here tonight is really an effort for, or an attempt for all of us to sort of come together and collaboratively develop a plan for the North and Central Coast to address some of these challenges between different uses, etc. So I'm looking forward to what comes out of our discussions tonight. Specifically, we're here to talk about how to engage with different affected and interested parties in this collaborative planning process. So we're really asking the question, how do we get everyone involved? So I look forward to your thoughts about how that will work for the communities here on the Central Coast. Thank you.
Thanks very much to everyone that provided some introductory remarks. What I would like to do is just spend about 5 minutes giving you an overview of what we have planned for this evening, and we can adjust that as required to meet your needs. First of all, purpose. There is quite, you'll learn in a minute more about what the steering committee is and what the planning office is. But suffice to say, it's the planning office and the steering committee that's talking to you today, trying to get advice from you today about how to proceed with PNCIMA. And in particular, the advice they're seeking is how to engage the communities, how to engage you in the process. Because as the first speaker said, as Gary said, working together is really important. It's an essential ingredient to success. So the question is, how are we going to do that? And they have developed a proposal based on previous discussions that they've had. And the symbol that's up on the screen here is really at the essence of that proposal. So if you look on your table, you'll see a document called Engagement Strategy. Looks like this.
Yeah, maybe you can introduce yourself.
Sure. Thanks, Alex. My name's Alex. Alex Sabosky. I'm an independent facilitator and mediator, and I was hired by the steering committee and the planning office to facilitate these community consultations. So, if you look at this document, if you look on page 5, there's this funny looking diagram. And that diagram represents the proposal that they would like to ask you about tonight. The other thing one of the other things that's on your table is a set of questions. Looks like this. And what they'd like to do is get answers to those questions. Those are questions that are really important for the planning office and the steering committee in order to design this process correctly from the start. And so they want to start talking to you about those questions, and then over the next week or so, if you have further thoughts, I'd like to get those from you. So just briefly, you see 5 circles here. Those are different ways in which it's proposed that people can get involved in PNCIMA. There's an advisory committee, sort of a broad advisory committee at the scale of all of PNCIMA. And they want to know from you what you think about the mandate of that, what you think about the representation or participation in it, how to make it work. There are working groups which might be geographically specific or issue specific. They'd like to know what kinds of issues or what kinds of areas, which areas you think would be useful for a working group. There's the opportunity to do kind of one-off events, workshops and that on particular issues, say bringing together local knowledge and science, as they said in Port Hardy last night. There's existing advisory processes that some of you are actively involved in, existing processes that have been going on for a long time that need to be brought into PNCIMA as opposed to just running in parallel. And finally, there's opportunities to use the internet as a way to facilitate participation. So we've got a couple of introductory presentations. Maybe I should say we've had meetings now. This is the 6th meeting. We met in Port Hardy last night, Camel River the night before, and then last week we were in Kitimat and Prince Rupert and Masset and Skilligan. And they've been very productive meetings, and we've kind of the way we're doing it is providing you with a couple of presentations up front, not too long, so you don't get real bored and listening to presentations, but just kind of an update. What's the progress so far? What are these proposals in more detail? And then the steering committee and planning office people would like to sit with you in different groups and actually get into a detailed discussion about these questions. And those discussions have been very fruitful. And then at the end, we can hear reports from each of the groups and have an open, just plenary discussion. Anybody has anything they want to say, they can say. That's how we've done it the last 5 meetings. It's worked quite well. That's how we would propose to proceed this evening. If that works for everybody. Any questions with respect to that, or does that work? Okay? Great. Now, we have a video here. We videotaped all of the other meetings with the permission of the participants. And with your permission, we'll videotape this meeting. And the purpose of that is to put the videotape on the PNCIMA website so that anyone that's interested what other communities had to say in these meetings can go on and look at the videotape, if you would like to do so. But the question, first of all, is: does anybody mind if the meeting's videotaped? Is that any objections? Okay, so we'll just keep the tape running. I told you about the feedback form. Some of the questions are not easy to answer. We can have a really robust discussion about them, but maybe you'll want to think about it some more and give some more feedback later, which is great. So it's kind of trying to get that discussion going tonight and over the next week or so. If you think of things that are important, you can give Neil a call or send him an email or whatever way you prefer to communicate. Okay, so we have 2 presentations. Neil, you can do both?
I will. I wonder if we want to introduce all the planning office.
Yeah, okay, well, we can quickly go around the room. Because everybody, I guess most people are familiar with each other except for us.